Hey, true believers. Chris Mack coming at you with the Amazing Spider-Man Annual number 21. This is the wedding of Mary Jane Watson and Peter Parker. The print date on this book was June 1987. And I've read this book quite a few times over the years. And each time that I go back and I get more involved in the Spider-Man lore, because like I've said in many reviews, Spider-Man was not my jumping on point. It was the X-Men and Batman. So through these last few years, I've really had to kind of go and play catch up with the origin of Peter Parker. And like everyone knows the origin of Spidey, but I mean, all the different relationships he's had through the years with different characters like Ned Leeds, I think is his name, Flash Thompson, etc., so forth. And so each time that I get more information, I go back and I kind of reread this particular issue, and it just really shows how the creators of this book made sure every character that Peter interacts in this book really calls back to the old books to show how his future would be shaped. Now, the print date on this, I think I said a minute ago, was June 87. The creators of The Wedding was Jim Shooter, plot and editor-in-chief, David Michelini, I think is how you say his name, script, Paul Ryan, pencils, Vince Corletta doing the inks, Rick Parker doing the lettering, Bob Sharon colors, and Jim, I think that's Jim, that font is hard to read, Jim Sillerup. If I totally flubbed it up, feel free to make fun of me down in the comments, but he was the editor. Now, one little tidbit that I did happen to come across when I was getting information on this book initially was, I guess during the 80s, Stan Lee was writing a Spider-Man newspaper strip, which I did not know existed, so I'm going to have to look more into that. So what he thought, and this is kind of a quote that I found from him, is he said he wanted the newspaper Spider-Man and then, of course, the comic Spider-Man weddings to happen simultaneously, which he said was hard to do because, you know, the newspaper strips come out regularly, as were comics, you know, they're written months in advance, or how it should be. And so he said he played hell to try to sync these two up, and said it was probably one of the hardest things that he did creatively. So I'm going to have to go back and see if I can't find the news strip and maybe do a short review on it. If you guys would like to see that, let me know down in the comments and I'll go hunt for it. Now, the book initially opens up with Peter swinging through town, taking out villains. We get a really cool fight with Electro. So my brain just went out the window. Now, he's just got busted out of the paddy wagon, as Peter calls it, which I've not heard that term in ages. And I like how as Electro comes running out of this clothing store, he goes, "Come, there's havoc to be wrought." I mean, how epic does that sound? There's havoc to be wrought. And of course, the Electro shoots a guy. One of the guys is like, "The boss must be getting soft. He didn't kill this guy. I guess that's what they keep us around for." And he goes to pull a gun on this officer. And then the pacing, like how you just see from out of panel, "Hey," and the guy's like, "What the loop?" And all we see is the web and, of course, the memorable thwip. And Peter's like, "I would say all tied up." But you guys have probably heard that one before. And they all start shooting at him. He goes, "Well, maybe not." And again, it's just the paneling, you know, this old school dynamic, what do you call it, drawing the Marvel way. You can just see it in each panel. You're not bored. Everything's dynamic. How Peter starts throwing all this stuff at Electro so he doesn't get shocked to death, essentially electrocuted, that's the word. And Electro knocks down this wall, and I like how Peter grabs it. And what I find so great is, again, thinking about anatomy, is how he's holding this wall up and he's saying, "Straining my muscles. So it's this way," and then twists his body to essentially dump the wall at Electro. So you just kind of see the body in motion. That is a great use of artwork. Now, as the story goes on, Peter goes to sell, like he's essentially, someone says it looks like Spider-Man's looking for trouble because he's asking policemen where is emergencies, and of course he's taking all these photos, and he's saying that he's saving up all this money for him and Mary Jane's wedding. He stops at the Daily Bugle to, what do you call it, to cash his check on this. And I like how Robbie here, he's essentially taken over Jonah's job. Jonah's kind of the overseer now of the Daily Bugle, and Robbie's taken over the Daily stuff. And he's like, Peter, before you go, I'd like to show you something. Well, I have a lot to do, but sure, Robbie. What is it? Oh, I guess you could call it a little surprise. And I like that everybody at the Bugle, even though Peter was a freelance photographer, they took the time, because they've built relationships with him over the years, they took a moment to stop and celebrate with him. And then Jonah, of course, comes in, and I like how Peter's just like, uh-oh. And Robbie's like, I know you don't approve of parties on company time, Jonah, but nonsense. I may be a publisher, but I'm not an ogre. And he actually gives Peter some really sage advice about marriage, to a degree. And it's actually pretty sweet. And then Robbie's like, here's a bonus check. Enjoy. And then Peter, always trying to do the right thing, and he's always thinking of everybody before himself. He goes, listen, Jonah, I know this wasn't your idea. Maybe you'd better take the check back, and that's all right, Parker. Keep it. Now, remember at the beginning of this party, he goes, I'm a news publisher first and not an ogre. And how he's thinking here, he goes, I'll find some other way to make up the expense. And the reason that it's because the whole party kind of ends on a flat note as Peter leaves, because JJ here says, oh, Ms. Hodgkins, do remember to take down the names of everyone here, won't you? I'd hate to dock someone that didn't attend. It's like, oh, you jerk, come on. And you can kind of see how she chokes on her cake, like, oh my God. Now going back, see, we get Robbie and Jonah and how they're supposed to kind of act. And then we have a moment with him and Betty Brant. And, as he's walking away, he goes, me and Betty could have been married once, but Spider-Man got in the way. And it's because of Spider-Man that her relationship with Ned Leeds was destroyed, because Ned was killed. I don't remember how off the top of my head. But yeah, she's not taking it very well. She goes, oh, I forgot about your wedding, but don't worry, me and Ned will be there. And Peter's like, oh my God, she's not processing this well at all. Ned's dead, so why is she saying that we'll both be there? So it's just a very heartbreaking moment. But again, trying to push Peter forward with the wedding for future story arcs, I like that they're calling back and showing all the relationships that Peter has with each character. Or the fact that, Mary Jane's a hotshot movie star, she's in with the crowd, and Peter's doing everything he can to show that he loves her, and she knows it. He goes out of his way to buy a wedding ring, and Mary Jane's like, I thought we were going to do this together. And, Peter, being the way he is, he just goes, Prithee, fair maiden, wouldst thou acceptest this paltry token of my heartfelt and honest affection? Wouldst thou? It's like, Peter, you're strange and wonderful. Now will you please come down? And what I like is how they all kind of, as we get these sweet moments, and then again, seeing the life of Peter Parker, things kind of go south for the most part. Doubt gets sown between these two, and they really start to question if they really should be together. There's this guy named Bruce that is pining for Mary Jane, saying, keep this Ferrari. He sends her a cassette tape. Yes, there was a time before CDs and all that. But on the cassette tape, he's saying, Mary Jane, take this Ferrari and meet me at the airport. And even if you don't, just keep the Ferrari. I have another one. And she's like, oh, Bruce, you'll never change. Still, it would be fun. And you're thinking, really? Really, MJ? But Peter's having his own doubts as well. He even tells Aunt May, I don't know if I'm ready yet. And we'll get into that here in a second. But we take a moment here to see Peter at Aunt May's house, going through the old photo albums, and we get a really cool backstory that kind of bring new readers up on how Peter came to be, how his life with Gwen Stacy was shattered, because initially everyone thought that they were going to get married, but because of the Hobgoblin, or the Green Goblin, figuring out who he was, he kidnapped Gwen. And as many of you moviegoers have seen, if you remember the second Andrew Garfield film, Peter tries to save her from being thrown from the top of the Brooklyn Bridge or something like that. But as Peter grabs her with her web, her neck snaps and it kills her. And Peter's just not been able to reconcile completely with that. Even though when MJ says, are you okay with it? He goes, I'm fine. Here she goes, I didn't mean to open old wounds. And look at the way he deflects. He goes, That's okay. That one's healed pretty well. Silence. Real well. More silence. Really. Guess that's enough thinking for one night. Take you home. You can see how he deflects because, again, they're both really wondering if this is the right decision they're making or if they're rushing. And why Peter's like sulking and, letting his anxiety get the better of him, MJ is losing herself in the party life, kind of letting everyone sort of flirt with her and like, oh, MJ, why don't you take me? And she goes, oh, that's the best offer I've had in 15 minutes. And when she actually has moments of doubt, like where you can see the expression on her face change, everyone goes, MJ, are you okay? Oh, I'm fine. Let's party. And then what I like too is here. Peter takes a moment to visit Flash because he got injured in a fight with helping Spider-Man. So we're here at the hospital, and I like how here outside the window it says, time for your shot, Mr. Thompson. And Peter comes barging in going, better bend over. And I like how Flash started out as such an asshole. And then as everyone grew up, he matured and saw the errors of his way, and he's trying to get his life on track. And that's how him and Flash became great friends compared to how Flash was such a bully to him growing up. Now, I do want to add, from the Tom Holland movies, the guy that's playing Flash, he's a funny actor, but for those of us that have been reading Spider-Man, I read Spider-Man on and off through the years, so I knew who Flash Thompson was, so I could be part of this party here. But he's so lanky and nerdy. Yeah, he's still a bully to Peter, but Flash was the jock. He was big, musculature guy. That's why he got chose for Agent Venom later down the road. The guy playing him in the movies, he's so lanky and so nerdy. I don't know if they'd be able to introduce him as Agent Venom later down the road. We'll see. But yeah, I was watching a guy talk about it on TikTok, and he was saying, yeah, this guy playing Flash now, I don't see it. But maybe we'll be surprised. Who knows? Let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments. But anyway, with all that, antidotes out of the way, Peter comes in and says, listen, Flash, it would mean the world to me if you were my best man. And of course, Flash's like, hell yeah, dude, I'm going to throw you a bachelor party. And so we get into the bachelor party, which, let me see if I can find it real quick. And Peter's kind of acting more melancholy. While everyone else is trying to celebrate, it's him, Harry Osborn, etc., so forth. And Peter's like, is this the right thing to do? I mean, once you get into marriage, I mean, you have these, there's chances to like hurt each other beyond repair without even meaning it. And Harry tries to say, dude, marriage was the best thing for me. Yeah, sure, me and the missus have our spats and it stings, but we know that we don't mean to hurt each other. And Peter's like, but yeah, Harry, you found the one in a million. And then Flash says, I can relate, pal. My life with Shashan was a disaster. I really blew it. And then Peter's like, well, we're on the same wavelength. You're saying marriage is a mistake. And I like how Flash says, no. I think about being married all the time. My foul-ups have only made that kind of happiness even more desirable, more precious. And if you got a chance for that, buddy, you better darn well go for it. And so I like that there's this moment between friends where they kind of tell Peter, get your act together. Here, where MJ gets another letter from this Bruce pining for her. She goes, Bruce, will you ever stop? And do I want you to? And then one of these party goers is like, problem, MJ? You look so serious. Serious? Me? You're not talking to Mother Teresa, Tom. This is Mary Jane Watson. Let's party. So you can kind of see how each character, again, is dealing with this life-changing event. Peter's having some real bad anxiety dreams where he's dreaming that he's being married to MJ. You got all of his rogue gallery, Avengers, Daredevil, Fantastic Four, and they start attacking Peter in his dream. And Mary's like, you're Peter, you wouldn't drop me or let me be hurt in any way, would you? And Peter's like, Mary, Jane, I can't stop them. Get out of here. For the love of heaven, please. And so he's kind of applying what happened to Gwen Stacy and Captain Stacy, his friends getting hurt like Flash, etc., so forth. He's kind of applying these onto Mary Jane in his dream. and he's waking up screaming, and again the camera pulls back to show how vulnerable he is right now. So while he goes out to clear his head, here comes Bruce once again. And Mary Jane's just like, I need to make a decision. And again, Peter going back to wishing that he could talk to Gwen. He goes, Gwendy, I wish you were here. I loved you, but I also love Mary Jane. And he goes, but it was your choice that you loved me, and you never complained. He's like, Gwen, I don't know what to do. What's fair? But as the whole book happens, of course, they get married. But I like the way that the journey brings you, showing that the way they both kind of deal with having cold feet, and as if this is the right adult, mature decision to make, and that they don't want to ruin one another. All the while, it shows how each character has grown over the years since Stan Lee and Steve Ditko initially put Spider-Man together. And it was such a great way to close the book on the past and open the book into the future. And that's why moving forward into the 2000s, that's why everybody hated, what was that arc? A New Day, I think it was called, or One More Day, or something like that, where after the fallout of Civil War, Peter revealed, he revealed his identity to the world. Aunt May suffered the consequences of it. Peter made a deal with Mephisto that basically rewrote history. Him and Mary Jane never got married. Aunt May was alive. And I hate to say it, but in One More Day, instead of letting Aunt May live, which I'm not trying to be morbid, but again, just like how this book kind of closed the chapters of Peter's past as a single person looking out for himself, and then this opened up to being a husband, which after this, their relationship was super rocky, but they still kept it together. I feel like with One More Day, they should have went ahead and killed off Aunt May. That would have been another closing chapter to Peter's life. And then maybe actually have him have a child or something moving forward instead of trying to factory reset back to status quo as One More Day did and pissed off a lot of fans at the time. So with that said, guys, this was an excellent, heartfelt, emotional issue with some really great action in between. If you've enjoyed what you've seen, please first and foremost support your local comic shop and see if they have a copy in stock. If you've enjoyed this review, we really would appreciate if you take a moment to hit like, share, and subscribe. Helps the club channel more than you could possibly know. And if you wouldn't mind hitting that fancy little web slinger bell next to subscribe, that way as we continue to upload content, you guys get notified. Come to the channel, and we love talking with you all and hearing your thoughts and feedback down in the comments below or our social media pages, which I'll make sure to leave the links down in the description. So with all that said, thank you so much for stopping by. Hope you all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, true believers.